American businessman and author Robert Kiyosaki once said, and I quote, "When people are lame, they love to blame." Having failed to resolve its industrial dispute with the members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, the federal government is now blaming the striking lecturers. The Minister of Labour and Productivity, Ngige, who denied being responsible for the prolonged strike, which has kept public universities shut for nearly 3 months now, described the attitude of ASUU leadership to the reconciliation effort as uncooperative and anti-labor. We're here. The last time I checked, Chris Ngige wants to become the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the Minister of State for Education too has also picked his form to become the president. So, and they claim to have the solution to the problem of this country. Some ministers under Mr. President want to succeed Mr. President. They claim they have the solution, but they refuse to tell Mr. President that solution all through 6, 7, 8 years. So Chris Ngige now wants to become the president of Nigeria, and ASUU is on strike 3 months down the line.
That's what makes the entire thing, very laughable. I'm sure you noticed me, smiling away. And that is because I have difficulties, reconciling some of these convenient claims that have been made by principal officers of government who ought to have, through their offices, ensured that our kids, are in school and learning. Let me just help us bring this fact home. Last time I was here, I did say that for you to have a fairly good grasp of what has happened in the education sector is to understand that in the last 5 years, out of 5 years, we spent 1 whole year.
Out of 5 years.
Out of 5, 1 whole year. And that is as at, 2021. If you add the 1 year that our kids spent at home last year and the 3 months, you probably have a situation where in the last 5 years our kids have been home almost 16, 17 months, nearly 2 years of university shutdown. And you wonder if we're indeed a very serious people. And here we have government officials, laying claims and shifting blames as to who is responsible for
4 straight years again.
No.
6 straight years or 7 straight years. There must be.
And then
breaking this transmission.
I'm just reminded of an image I saw 2 days back. I hope it's not recent. If it is recent, it's a picture of one of the kids of a governor in the north who just graduated from a university in the UK. I don't want to mention names because we are not here to deal with such issues. But again, it just tells you the hopelessness in the entire situation. If those who are supposed to be managing us don't have absolute confidence in our educational system and they're sending their kids abroad, it just tells you that for those of us who are commoners, then there is little or no hope left. And I dare say that it is wrong for the Labour Minister and the Minister of State, of Education to shift blames. And this is not about taking sides with ASUU. The ASUU people are not asking for too much. I mean, government willingly went into an agreement, signed an MOU, signed an MOA or whatever it is called, and has refused to implement the agreement it willingly, put signature to. And then here we are, government officials, shifting blames and telling the rest of us whose kids should be in school that we shouldn't bother. And it just makes the entire thing very disheartening. I was listening to the Minister of State last time, on the day he was picking up his form, telling us that we should not be carried away by the general claims out there that students are at home. That indeed, if you take out the private universities, take out the state universities, that is just about 50 or so universities belonging to the federal government where you have a shutdown in academic activities, and you wonder if these universities, let us even without conceding, all right, these universities that have been shut down carry the highest number of student population in the country.
Yes.
And then he wants us to believe that that argument is sustainable. It's not. Nigerians are very disappointed that in the last 14, 15 months or thereabout, if you add what transpired last year, that our kids have been home. And the rest of the world is moving on, and we're talking about a knowledge economy. And here we are, we really don't care. Ayo, you talked about the fertile ground for recruitment of bandits and the rest of them. You'll be shocked that some of the guys who are actively involved in these criminalities are undergraduates. I mean, we hear about the Yahoo thing. They're all over the place. In fact, you almost have departments of such departments in some universities. So we create this environment, and then we go back and then tell us, why did it take them so? I mean, why are they pontificating over their capacity to be able to deal with this when they're in a government and they couldn't? In fact, it's disturbing that even Mr. President himself, listening to them, is still accommodating them within his cabinet. I see it as a mark of sabotage. I mean, if you know what to do and you refuse to do it, and you're waiting for when you become Mr. President to be able to do what is right, then it shows that you didn't mean well in the first place. I'm sorry, but it just says, it speaks a lot to the rot in our educational system.
Like I was listening to the Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amici, in Lagos APC Secretariat, and he was providing solution to Nigeria's security problem, talking about how he was able to conquer insecurity in Rivers State, that what happened in Rivers State during this time is what is happening in Nigeria. And then I say, these people are part of the Federal Executive Council. Why are they not able?
The transport system.
Transport, yes. We don't know the number of people that were actually abducted. How many dead right now? And somebody is not taking responsibility.
It's a national crisis. There is a Chinese proverb that says that if you are planning for 1 year, sow rice. If you are planning for a decade, plant trees. If you are planning for lifelong venture, educate your people. Education is the key. All the developed countries you are seeing is education. Our government does not take education serious. It goes beyond the Ngige. That is the truth of the matter. What was our budget for education this year? I think it's about 7.9. In the past 6 years, averagely it's about 6%. Rwanda allocates 10.7% of its national budget to education. Ghana, 23% to education. South Africa, 16.7% to education. So if I happen to be the president of Nigeria, I would have invited ASUU. Because this thing is not just about Ngige alone. It's about the federal government of Nigeria and the future of the children of this country. There are 43 federal government universities, and we have 48 state-owned universities. But these 43 federal government universities, they have thousands of people are there. The numerical strength of the students in these institutions.
I'm sure that UNILAG is
nothing less than 50,000. These institutions are, some of them over 50 years old.
Population of some 5 private universities put together.
Yes.
Or even much more.
Nothing less than 50. As at time we were in UNILAG, it was 47,000.
Yes. Look at UNN, look at ABU. So why look at the Southwest that we're looking at today? I will introduce free education for just only, it started in 1952. Just about 7 years. The impact is still being felt 60 years after. So if you look at all the development in technology, invention, military hardware, everything is about development and research. Hope State University alone, $2.6 billion every year on research and development. So it has to do with the kind of character of leadership. We don't have value education, and we are paying for the consequences of ignorance. That's why you see a lot of terrorism, violence, aggression. Our economy has refused to develop. So we need to, there should be a paradigm shift from how we address education. The national budget and everything. If not, we are going to be in a very bigger problem. I think this problem goes beyond the Ngige. It has to do with the kind of people we have in power.
All right. Joining us via Zoom for more insights into the discussion is the chairman of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, at the University of Lagos, UNILAG, Dele Ashiro. That's Dr. Dele Ashiro. Thank you for joining us. We started earlier last week, and we promised that we're going to trash it out this Sunday. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Ashiro.
Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I want us to just break it down. to Nigerians. A lot of people feel that anytime you decide to go on strike, it's all about your salary, your remuneration. That's what it's about. Now, this 3-month-old extended strike, what are you agitating for? What is the bone of contention?
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. While we thank our colleagues in the studio for, their insights thus far, I'd like to say that the crux of the matter really is the insensitivity of a government whose priority is not in the education of its citizens. In 2009, we signed an agreement with government. That agreement had 4 pillars. The first is conditions of service. The second is funding for revitalization. The third is university autonomy and academic freedom. And the fourth pillar is other matters related thereto. Between 2009 and today, in spite of all the strikes, it is shameful that government has not been able to fully implement that agreement. And to add insult upon injury, you listen to, individuals entrusted with the destiny of Nigerians, the way they talk arrogantly with complete disregard for the future of citizens of this country. You listen to the Minister of State for Education, somebody whose bit is to ensure stability and progress in the education sector. The way he takes the matters of state beats one's imagination. And if you also listen to the Minister of Labor, you begin to realize that ego is beginning to set in. That minister had presided over 3 memorandum of action between government and our union. And all of these memoranda of action had failed. In societies that are serious, that are making progress, such a minister would have thrown in the towel. But rather than do that, you listen to the kind, of assertion they make with complete disregard, for the pivotal role of education in our society. Our union is not going to be disturbed because we understand that we must do what we are doing if Nigeria must take its pride of place amongst the Committee of Nations. And I am saying this because if you go into any Nigerian university today, students' accommodation are not only in disrepair, they are grossly inadequate. The laboratories don't have common reagents. The libraries are 10 years behind. Infrastructure are decaying. Even the teachers who teach them, cannot go to the market and smile back home. It may shock you to know, Ayo, that university teachers in Nigeria have been receiving the same salaries since 2009 till date. The implication of that is that our members all over the country, lecturers in public universities, are the ones who are subsidizing public education in Nigeria. And now we are saying government must review that agreement, because even in the 2009 agreement, it is there that the agreement should be reviewed every 3 years. It is now 13 years and government is refused, to review that agreement. We had a document concluded by Professor Muzali Jubril-led government team in 2021, since May. Between May 2021 and May 2022, government is yet to look at the document, let alone, implement what is contained therein. I listened to the Honorable Minister of Labor the other time saying a government cannot pay, and all those crap arguments. Contained in our agreement, in the document that they have refused to utilize, are suggestions about how government can raise the finances to fund education appropriately in Nigeria. So you have a ruling class that is bereft of ideas. It's also lazy. They cannot read. They cannot also think. And when you also think for them, it becomes difficult for them, to digest the suggestions that you have and implement. So what we are saying, and we remain resolute about it, is that the 2009 agreement must not only be reviewed, they must commence implementation, as well as taking us out of the now very discredited IPPIS platform and deploy UTAS as dictated by government itself.
Tell us about the last week we stopped you. We didn't have time to talk about this UTAS and IPPIS, and you were describing the government-owned profile platform as fraudulent, and we want you to shed light into this.
Yeah, you agree with me that as a union of intellectuals, we have the capacity to look at issues and give blueprints to government. When our union was told that IPPIS, we were to be enrolled on the IPPIS, we told government that this is a system that is not suitable, for the Nigerian university system. Not only that, there's nowhere in the world where lecturers are paid through a centralized payment platform like those in the core civil service. Not only that, we predicted that IPPIS, is a fraud and would also compromise the sovereignty of the country. Today, our union is vindicated because, one, the latest Auditor General of the Federation's report had very unkind words in describing the IPPIS scheme. That's aside from the humongous amount of money that government had committed into it. Not only that, the head of the civil service of the Federation, Mrs. Folashade, only recently came out to tell Nigerians that they have found thousands of ghost workers on the IPPIS platform. The very reason why it was introduced in the first instance. These two instances from agencies of government is enough for a serious government to abrogate the IPPIS platform. But let me tell you the harm that platform is doing to our members. I've listened to arguments, particularly the last one by one Professor Kemi Rotimi, who said that an employee cannot dictate how an employer should pay him. That argument, belittles, our status as scholars. Because apart from the fact that workers are not slaves and workers have rights, it is incumbent on any worker to also complain that, look, this payment platform is injurious to me. As I speak with you, when we are being paid under the IPPIS platform, no lecturer can say that at the end of the month, this is the exact amount that I will receive. IPPIS will drop whatever they care to drop. Some lecturers expecting about 334,000. They will be paid 34,000 naira in a month. And when you want to complain, you have nowhere to go other than to Abuja. And of course, the Nigerian system. When you go to Abuja, you don't get anything done without greasing the hands of those in the IPPIS office. It was the chronicle of all of these shortcomings in IPPIS that led government itself to challenge our union. It was government who told us that if you don't want IPPIS, give us an alternative, believing that our union may not be able to do so. But our union went inwards, gathered the best brains amongst us in computer technology and ICT knowledge, and we brought out UTAS. UTAS as a payment platform is more flexible, it's more dynamic, it's more transparent, it's accountable, it's robust. It speaks to the peculiarities of the Nigerian university system and takes care of all of the payment structures in the Nigerian university system, be it CONWAS, be it CONWA, be it COMPUCAS, any of the payment structure that we have in the university system, the UTAS platform had been designed to cater for that. Now, in a bid not to implement UTAS, government funnily said that they were going to subject it to a NIPDA test. Of course, our union raised the question, did you subject IPPIS to any test? The answer, of course, is no. And then we said, well, if you want to subject UTAS to a test, go ahead and do so. UTAS was subjected to that test by the report which I had forwarded, to my brother, Ayodele Ozumbaku. NIPDA itself, the technical team of NIPDA, scored UTAS 99.3%. I wonder by what stroke of imagination and by whatever mathematical computation that a system that scored 99.3% will be adjudged to be a failure. Of course, we know the reasons why, UTAS had become political. First, the pantomization.
In terms of your agitation, you spoke about 4 legs and you started with one and you didn't articulate the rest. When you started,
the first is the condition of service. The second is funding for revitalization. The third is university autonomy and academic freedom. The fourth is other matters that are related to the 3 above. Conditions of service, I mentioned that university teachers have been receiving the same salaries since 2009 till date. How much is a bag of rice in 2009? How much is it today? The second is funding for revitalization of universities. And what we are simply saying there is that government should fund education in Nigeria such that it will become globally competitive. It was on that bid that I talked about no reagents in the laboratory, no latest journals in our libraries, poor living condition for students, etc. I give you a practical example. Some of the best hostels in the University of Lagos are renovated, were renovated by monies that were brought into the system by the strikes of our union. In terms of university autonomy and academic freedom, IPPIS had done more to erode university autonomy that we have fought for over a long period of time than any other system in the history of this country. And that's why our union is not prepared to allow government to take over the autonomy of universities by ensuring that each time you want to appoint a university lecturer, you have to take permission from the head of the civil service of the federation. And our union is arguing that there is nowhere in the world where universities are categorized as ministries, departments, or agencies of government. Universities are autonomous institutions in the business of knowledge production for the development of society. And if we desire development for our society, the way to go is to guarantee, autonomy for university and grant academic freedom to those who teach in the universities.
All right, Dr. Ashiro, permit me to take you back to the matter of funding of universities. How would you respond to claims that managers of Nigeria's university system have, failed in the area of being creative in terms of revenue generation that can support, the management of Nigerian universities? Here I'm talking about, suggestions that our universities can charge appropriate fees and also engage in commercial ventures, that can generate revenue for some level of independence that can support the management of Nigerian universities. How would you respond to some of these claims?
Well, thank you very much. I will respond by saying that first, universities are not business ventures that will think about generating money. There's nowhere in the world where universities are, are structured in that manner. What universities are meant to do is develop human capacity and develop minds to make citizens, to make to produce better citizens for the society. Now, because of government's unwillingness and insensitivity to education, especially tertiary education in Nigeria, universities have now had to go out of their way to be producing pure water. Some were even suggesting that they should produce vegetable for them to eat and all that. I mean, these are reductionist arguments for what universities represent. What universities ought to do, and which we have suggested to government, is to support robust, well-meaning research in our universities. Those researches would in turn be patented and they would generate revenue for the university. The only way a university properly functioning should earn revenue is by investing adequately in research and development, and also tying their researches to solving problems within the society. In Nigeria, our union are giving a challenge to government, that rather than getting expertise from outside the country, rather than giving contracts, consultancy contracts to your friends and cronies, look for universities with requisite expertise and let them brainstorm, think through a particular problem and proffer solution. And then from such, proceeds, universities can run comfortably. But in all of this, government must take the lead. In South Africa, they have a research fund that is more than the budgets of 10 states in Nigeria put together. Some universities outside Nigeria have budgets that are bigger than that of Nigeria. We are saying that government must be the one to take the lead in, funding researches in the university. I'm talking about students paying appropriate fees. There is no fee that can be appropriate, for the kind of learning that goes on in a university properly functioning. And this is vindicated by what is happening in the private universities. Some private universities charge 3, 4, 5 million to run courses, and yet they still groan under improper funding. They also don't pay lecturers well. In fact, we have on good authority that they also contribute to the reasons why government is refusing, to renegotiate the 2009 agreement book, because what it will mean for private universities is also increase payroll emolument for those who teach there. So while that is noted, universities can be funded through endowment, through researches, through patents, etc. But it is the owners of the university that will lead by example. A government cannot be irresponsible and then expect responsibility from other people. In societies where universities are driven by endowments and all that, the government of such places, the state in such places, also play a very pivotal role in driving, such researches in the university.
Dr. Ashiro.
Can I go ahead?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Ashiro, in what way has this strike affected brain drain locally and internationally in terms of ASUU members being frustrated probably to go and look for jobs elsewhere?
Well, thank you very much for that. That goes without saying. Our members are leaving the shores of the country in droves, just like medical doctors are leaving. A university is a universal profession. Scholars in Nigeria are wanted all over the world. And as long as government keeps playing politics with the lives of lecturers, lives of students, etc., our colleagues are leaving the shores of this country. A number of our younger colleagues recruit who were best graduating students in their respective classes and recruited to beef up, the academic staff in most universities have all left. In Unilag, more than 85% of such individuals have found ways into Canada, into the US, into England, all over the country, where their PhD are even to be sponsored. So what we are saying is Nigerians may not realize, you know, the gravity of this government's crudity and lackluster attitude in Nigerians' education system today. But the consequences are drawing home.
If you are going to be objective now, do you think the federal government can fully fund tertiary education in Nigeria? There's nowhere in the world that you have tertiary education being funded by the states 100% the way we do it in this country. Is there any other solution you can prefer to the federal government of Nigeria?
Thank you very much. It is not true that even government is wholly funding education. What government is only paying is salaries of university teachers. The universities are struggling, you know, to do a number of things on their own. And most often, when governments even give budgets, they don't release it. So nobody's, as we speak, government is not funding tertiary education in Nigeria 100%. Students in federal universities are paying. You may say that what they are paying may be small compared to what they pay in private university. In state universities, students pay. Some students pay as much as 150,000 naira. I mean, in their respective universities. So it's a different thing if we say they are not paying what you call adequate, but it is not true that government is 100% funding education in Nigeria. Having said that, our union had given proposals to government as to how education can be funded in Nigeria. Bear in mind also that is a constitutional matter. The Constitution of Nigeria says that education shall be free to university level. We believe that that is achievable if government, you know, cut wastages in government. Look, the budget of the National Assembly is more than the total budget for education for 5 years in Nigeria. And we are saying that a government who finds it comfortable to give $1 million to Afghanistan to jump on the plane to go abroad for ordinary toothache, I mean, receiving humongous salaries by government officials, cannot say that there's no money in Nigeria to fund tertiary education.
Wow.
Look at the politicians.
We have to
100 million naira, 100 million naira to buy a nomination form in a country where the minimum wage is 30,000 naira. That tells you that what we need to do is to reprioritize and not, you know, give the lame excuse that they cannot fund education in Nigeria.
Dele Ashiro from the University of Lagos, the chairman of University of Lagos, ASUU. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining Journalist Hangout on Sunday. If there's anything you can give to Dr. Ashiro, is the energy. The eloquence, the energy, and the passion in which
absolutely.
I wish you
thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure.
Drop by
thank you.
Science Department and come and see you anytime I come on campus. Well, I don't know.
It's
one thing I promise our viewers is that I think sometime this week or next week we're going to have the education minister. That's Dr. Chris Ngige.
Yeah,
you know,
I hope
we're going to have him, and
I hope
we'll take him on this.
I hope
Ashiro has fired.
I hope he finds time. They
no,
appear a bit distracted now.
No, trust them.
All right.
Trust them. We're going to have him live, and we are going to ask him about this.
Yeah, his responses.
You know, issues raised by
Africa. Yeah, very germane.